Today we're going to be making smothered pork chops, garlic mashed potatoes, and we're going to do some steamed broccoli. So come over so we can take a look and see what all the ingredients we need. So we have some yellow potatoes today. We have a couple of packs of pork chops, some butter, sour cream, eggs, mayo, mustard. We got some vegetable oil. I got some frozen broccoli from Sam's. This is the Members Mark kind. It's not too expensive, but it's really good. We're gonna move over. I got my cutting board because I need to cut my onions and my bell pepper and my garlic. Bell pepper, onion, garlic. We got some garlic salt. We have some regular salt. We have paprika, and we're gonna be using this Montreal steak seasoning. It's really good because it's a mix of a lot of different seasonings, so you don't have to pull so many seasons out. And last but not least, we will be using lemon pepper. And don't forget your flour because we will need that to fry the washed and clean, the way that I want them to be washed and clean. We have our seasonings that we're going to use, the paprika. And what we're going to do here is go on ahead and get these seasoned up so that you can see exactly what I am doing. We have 2 eggs on this side right here. We have a bowl of whisk and a spoon here because we're going to be using these items right here for our marinade for the pork chops that we'll be making tonight. So first, let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to do is use this seasoning right here, and just like to season them on both sides, really, just to make sure we have a little bit of everything. I ain't gonna worry about that little splatter. I usually keep my kitchen cleaned up pretty well. We're going to put a little lemon pepper on them, on each one of them. And then we are going to do the paprika. And the paprika it's got a little bit of taste to it. And what we're going to do is flip each one of them over. And we want to make sure that we get the backside of the pork chops seasoned as well. It does not matter which way or which seasoning you use first. Just make sure you get them seasoned to your liking and your taste. I particularly like my pork chops to be seasoned really good, so that when I put just a second, we're going to move over to our potatoes that we peeled and cut into small chunks here. These are going to be homemade garlic potatoes. As a matter of fact, I still got one potato. All right, so we have the potatoes right here. What we're going to do is basically just place the potatoes into some boiling water that I have. I had it on high at first, but I turned it down on medium high because I don't want my potatoes to cook too fast because I don't want them to get too tender, and that way they'll be. I just don't like my potatoes too mushy. And plus, I'm gonna be adding some extra ingredients into these mashed potatoes. So we want to make sure that they're a little bit firm by the time they get finished cooking, and that way we can make sure that everything is good. Now, once we put the potatoes in the water, I also want to go ahead and add my garlic into the water as well, because I want the garlic to actually cook inside of the potatoes while we're cooking. We got some salt here that we're going to place into this boil of water, and then what I'm going to do is cut it back on high here so it'll start back boiling. Just a little bit of salt, and we're going to do a little bit of garlic salt, and just again so the flavor can cook into the potatoes. So we're going to leave that right there. All right, so what we're going to do next here is we are going to make our marinade for our pork chops. I really like for my breading to stick to my pork chops. I don't know about you, you really don't have to do like the breading of the pork chops the way that I do it, but as long as if you frying them, they're always good with breading on. So what I'm going to do is do a little bit of mayo in this here bowl. And that's going to be the first part of my marinade. And that's absolutely. And we're going to do a little bit of mustard in with the mayo behind it. And what we're going to do next is we are going to go on ahead and whisk the 2 eggs that we have here in this right here. And then we're going to pour those 2 eggs into the mayo and mustard mixture. And what you want to do is just kind of take your whisk and whisk those together until you get a really smooth consistency of just almost like a yellow sauce. And the reason why I mix mayo with the mustard that I'm using to marinate my pork chops is because mustard has a little bit of twang to it. And if you eat mustard, you know the twang I'm talking about. So I use mayo to kind of tone it down a little bit, so that I got the bowl that I had my potatoes in, and I am going to place my pork chops in this bowl, kind of spread them out a little bit, so once I put the marinade in, they will all be marinated evenly. So next we're going to take our marinade that we made and pour that over our pork chops. So now that that is in there, give me 1 second. Stay right there. Not marinated. All right, so as you can see, I have my pork chops marinated in the mixture of mustard, eggs, and mayo that I placed in that bowl earlier. I just want to make sure everything is good and covered in marinade. And what we're going to do here is, if you want to come on one step over, we have some grease, some vegetable oil already cooking here, and we're going to cut that up to high. I'm going to deep fry these pork chops today because for one, it's quicker. And I just like mine deep fried for the simple fact I don't have to keep coming in here turning them over if I fry them in a skillet. It kind of saves you a little bit of time, but it's just deep frying pork chops. Marinated pork chops and our mustard, mayo, and egg marinade. And we have some all-purpose flour in this bowl right here. What I'm going to do first is just add a little bit of seasoning to the flour. I like for my flour to be seasoned as well, so that we can make sure that the flavor of what I am cooking is actually throughout the food. So we're going to put a little bit of, as a matter of fact, let me do it on the big side here. I ain't got that much, but put a little bit of pepper in there, and the flour. And then we're going to do some of our steak seasoning in here as well. And once we get that good and seasoned down, and no, I do not use measuring cups. We're going to fry. And we got that one pretty much floured. We're going to stick another one in here. And just kind of cover it with your flour, make sure it's battered really, really good. And I like to take the flour and kind of pat it down on my pork chops to make sure it get good and seasoned, or good and floured, or battered, or whatever you want to call it. This might get a little bit messy, but hey, if you make sure your kitchen stay clean, then certain stuff you don't have to worry about. Alright, so we have, just make sure it's fried. This is how you make sure your grease hot enough. And then you just kind of place it in there. That's one. And this is the other one I had floured right here. I'm going to place that one in there as well. And just make sure you put no grease in there so that they don't boil over. You don't want to start any like fires or anything. So just make sure you're careful with how much grease you use. I like to use a lot of grease personally because I like to get a lot of pork chops done at one time. I'm going to get a few more floured up, and we're going to drop those and fry those down too. Alright, so we're back. And what I'm going to do at this time, I've already added garlic butter, and I've smashed my potatoes with, again, this little utensil right here. And what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna put some sour cream in it, because again, if I want to eat leftover mashed potatoes, I don't want them to be stiff. So once I put that in there, you just kind of stir it in. Make sure it's mixed real well, and as well, the sour cream, that actually makes your mashed potatoes kind of fluffy, so they don't, again, don't dry out. And now that you have that all mixed in, you see how fluffy those potatoes are? Look at that. That's why I put the sour cream in there. And you stir it around a little bit after you've smashed them, and it makes them a little bit more creamy as well. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add just a little bit more garlic to it. I'm going to stir that around. Get that mixed in really, really well. And I already chopped up my onion. I've already chopped up my bell pepper as well. I have 2 packs of gravy, some flour, and we're going to be using a little bit of oil. So what I'm going to do is pour a little bit of oil into the skillet. Now I got my skillet on maybe a medium high, almost medium high, because you don't want it to cook too fast, so you don't lose control over it. And that should be enough right there. And what I'm going to do is let that get heated up. And I also have some boiling water right here. I'm going to wait until they get to boiling real good. We're going to use that water to steam our broccoli to go with our meal as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to let the grease heat up. We're going to place you guys on pause, and when we come back, we're going to make some gravy. Alright, so now we've cut up our bell peppers and our onions, and we have them in a little bit of olive oil. We're going to let them saute for a minute. Let me put this right here. And you just want to kind of stir it around just to get all of your vegetables covered in the olive oil to make sure that everything is consistent the way that it's supposed to be. Now, I'm not going to add any black pepper and salt to this gravy mixture, and the reason why is because I have 2 packs of gravy that I'm going to use to make this gravy what I want it to be. And it has enough salt and pepper in that already, so there's no need to add additional salt and pepper. So we're just going to saute these for a little bit. Come a little bit closer. I'm going to saute these for a little bit. Just to get them going. And then we're going to add a little bit of flour here in just a minute. And then I'm going to show y'all how I'm going to make this gravy that we are going to smother the pork chops in. And do not forget, we still got some water boiling right here. This is actually going to be the water that's going to steam the broccoli. So that's on the side. We already got our pork chops and our garlic mashed potatoes completed. As a matter of fact, while we're talking about those, let me go on ahead and show you the finished product. So we have pork chops here. And we have our mashed potatoes that we made with the garlic and sour cream and butter earlier. So we just got those in the oven right now. And I got my oven cut down as low as it'll go to 170. I don't want to dry my pork chops out, and I don't want to continue to cook my mashed potatoes. I just want them to stay warm. So that's why I put those 2 in the oven so they can kind of be on standby while I get everything else together. So what we're going to do now is, now that I've let my bell peppers and onions cook for a little bit, we are going to take some flour. Again, I use all-purpose flour. No matter what kind you get, this is, I just keep my flour in this little thing right here. And we're going to add a little bit of this. And no, I don't use measuring cups. Again, I kind of just, you know, do as I feel it should be as far as the actual flour goes. So I'm going to use that much right now. I'm going to kind of mix that together and kind of let the oil cook down into the flour and the actual onions and bell peppers, and then we're going to come back. As a matter of fact, we don't have to come back, because what we're going to do next while this is simmering, and again, I have my eye on like medium, between medium high. I did cook my pork chops for about 10 to 12 minutes a piece, and I fried them for 10 to 12 minutes, you know, to make sure they're done. And as far as my potatoes go, I didn't actually address that earlier in the video, but my potatoes, I cooked those for 10 to 15 minutes as well. And as I was stating previously, you know, until your desire of the potatoes, how you like them. I don't like mine to be too firm or too soft, so I kind of cook them a little bit in between. That way when I add the whipped cream, the sour cream to them, it kind of still gives them that fluff. So what we're going to do now that we have let this kind of saute a little bit, we're going to let that just go. And we're going to do our packs of gravy here. And what I do, I have about 2 cups of water in this this measuring cup here, and it's cold water. And what I want to do is take the gravy, 1 pack each, and pour it into the actual cold water. And we're going to pour this next one in. And for it to go in there. And then we're going to take our small whisk, we're going to whisk that together. You want to make a brown looking water right here. Make sure you get all of it mixed in really good, because you're going to pour it into your sauteed onions and bell peppers. So once you have that mixed really well and the water has turned brown at that point, you kind of want to go on ahead and add it into this mixture of sauteed onions and bell peppers. And then you want to kind of stir that around a little bit to kind of get the consistency going with it. And see, the flour is actually going to make it thicker. That's why I put flour into it first. And what I'm going to do here at this time is I'm actually going to cut my eye up a little bit, because I want to kind of bring it to a boil. Because I'm going to add some more. You see how it's already getting thick? Look at that. It's already getting thick. And I want more gravy than what I actually have in here. So what I'm going to do is just hang on for it. I'm going to grab some extra water and we're going to put it in there. And we're going to make this a little bit more gravy. Alright, so I have some more water. I'm going to go on ahead and add that into my gravy, because it was getting thick right when I started putting it together. And that was probably about 2 cups of water that I added here. And even though my gravy is thick in some places already, I'm just going to kind of mix it all together. And again, I want to bring that to a boil. And we're going to let that kind of simmer for a little bit so that it can begin boiling. Now, while my gravy is actually getting ready to get itself together for the pork chops that I'm going to smother it in, we're going to go ahead and start on the steamed broccoli. So what we're going to do is pause right now, and we will be right back with you. The next thing that we're going to do is I have some butter. I am going to go on ahead and season my broccoli, and the only thing that I'm going to use to season my broccoli is going to be salt and black pepper. I know the black pepper is something that I didn't pull out earlier. It was something that I forgot, unfortunately, but hey, now that you see, you're going to need black pepper to be able to make sure that your broccoli is steamed correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out the salt, and we have some black pepper. So what you want to do basically is just take a little bit of the salt here. You don't want to salt it too much, because we're also going to put butter on this as well. Just a little bit of salt. And again, I don't use measuring. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this broccoli right here, and see, again, I'm not going to put it in the water. I'm going to put it into this pan on top of the water that's boiling, because the steam is actually what's going to cook the broccoli. So we're going to go on ahead and pour that into this pan right here. And get that taken care of, out of the way. And what we're going to do here is we're going to slice some butter up And we're going to place the butter in half to put into the mashed potatoes that we made earlier. So what we're going to do now is actually we're going to take the pieces of butter and we're just kind of gonna put them around in this broccoli. As you can see, the steam is coming on the broccoli. It's coming up from the bottom of the broccoli. We're gonna put the butter in here. We're gonna go ahead and take care of that. And then what we're gonna do to make sure that the broccoli is steamed all the way through, we're gonna put a top on it to just kind of let that butter melt. And in about 5 to 10 minutes, we're gonna come back and check the broccoli. The broccoli should be good. And what we're gonna do now, since our gravy is actually thick, is really thick, we're actually gonna go on ahead and we're gonna get our tongs and those pork chops that I cooked earlier. We just tap that right here. We have those done in the oven, and we're just gonna pull that out. Again, I had my oven on 170 just to make sure that the food stayed warm because I didn't want it to dry out. So what we're gonna do here, and let me show you one of these pork chops that we fried earlier with the mustard and mayo marinade. This is one of the pork chops right here, and the egg in the marinade as well. We're gonna go on ahead and get that worked down into that gravy really good. We're gonna put about 3 or 4 of them in here and do one of these big ones. That was gotta see here. And see how that skin kind of flaked up on there. And so we're gonna put them in the gravy and then turn them over just to kind of let them get covered in gravy here. And see that gravy with those bell peppers and onions. And I think I may be able to get one more pork chop in here. I'm gonna see if I can squeeze another one in. This is a good one. I'm gonna put that one in there. I'm gonna flip it over so it can get some of that flavor on both sides of it. And so we got the gravy. Like I said, we'll be back in like 5 to 10 minutes to take care of the broccoli. And when we come back, we're going to show you the finished product of the broccoli. And we're going to actually plate the whole dinner up so that you can see what we'll be eating tonight for dinner. We'll be right back. All right. Again, we have smothered pork chops and gravy. You see how that gravy turned out? Look at that gravy. We have our mashed potatoes. You see they are not stiff. We have our steamed broccoli that we did. The butter is now melted in it. So it is done. And I'm going to sit that top right there. And then we have the rest of our pork chops right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fix it. It got thick how we wanted it to. And we're going to kind of spread that over our pork chop and our mashed potatoes. And what we're going to do here is let Naya take a bite, and this is the finished product of smothered pork chops, garlic mashed potatoes, and steamed broccoli. When we come back, we're going to let Naya take a bite and let us know what y'all think. And we're just going to have you taste it. And I want you to tell me what you think about it.
It's really good.
It is?
The gravy is good.
The gravy good?
Mm-hmm. And the pork chop.
And the pork chop? Okay, good. All right.